on investing in volunteers, collaboration for a sustainable future. And today we've got myself, Sue Manns, RTPI President for 2020, joined by Ryan Walker, who is the RTPI Northern Ireland Young Planners Committee Chair, Kim Walker, who is the Northwest RTPI Chair, and Chris Jesson, the East Midlands Chair. Thank you all for joining us today, and really looking forward to the question, answer and discussion session that we've got following a very short run through of the Investing in Volunteers strategy. So this is it, Investing in Volunteers, Collaboration for a Sustainable Future. What's it all about? Well, it's about RTPI volunteers. And volunteering, as we often say, is actually part of the DNA of the RTPI. It's a key part, a vital part of RTPI membership. And nearly 10% of RTPI members volunteer their time, their skills and their knowledge, which means we've actually got over 2,000 RTPI volunteers. And volunteers support the delivery of the activities that we've got. They support the wider membership, they support our member communities, and they support the organisation itself. And in the case of Planning Aid England, they actually directly deliver services to the public. So the question I'm often asked, and I'm certainly going to be posing to our panel today, is why volunteer? Well, we had a member survey a couple of years ago, and it was very, very clear from that members volunteer for two absolutely key reasons. Firstly, they want to be part of something bigger, and that something bigger is their profession. And also it enhances the sense of belonging to that profession and helping move it forward. So there's some really clear value to come to the volunteers from that. So the volunteer strategy that we're launching today is part of professionalising volunteering for the RTPI, and it sets out how the RTPI will maximise the opportunities for volunteering as a valued benefit of membership, as well as a benefit to the membership themselves and more broadly to the Institute. The aim of the strategy is to provide volunteers with a clear framework for their activities, to make sure that we can support members to make the most of those volunteering opportunities that are provided, and that we learn as the RTPI and everybody else learns from those experiences. And also the RTPI is keen to measure the value that volunteers add to the Institute's activities, because it is significant. So we want every volunteer, wherever they're based, whatever their role, to have a consistently positive experience. And we want to attract diverse and talented pool of volunteers. And as I mentioned earlier, professionalising volunteering. And this strategy that we're launching today is a key foundation in delivering the RTPI's corporate strategy for 2020-2030 and the RTPI's ambitions to become the world's leading professional planning body. So, as I said earlier, we want every RTPI volunteer, whoever they are, wherever they're based, whatever their role, to have this consistently positive experience, not just now, but into the future. So from the moment they choose to offer their time and talents until they step down from that role, we want to be able to recognise and celebrate the achievements of our RTPI volunteers and value the impact that they actually have to the RTPI members and communities. So we have a diversity of volunteer opportunities. And what I'm going to do now is just share a snapshot of some of those opportunities. So first off, we've got regional and national committees. And here's just some images of those people, and you'll recognise a couple of the speakers there today that are actually on our regional and national committees, the backbone of work that's done outside of the central structures. And then turning to the central structures, we've got the RTPI General Assembly and the Board of Trustees, both made up of volunteers. And I'll return to each of those roles towards the end. We've got the RTPI Young Planners, and we're represented by one of the RTPI Young Planner chairs from Northern Ireland, Ryan Walker, today. A great coming together of young planners and vibrant and amazing number of activities that they deliver for other young planners and for people like me who sometimes sort of gate crush the activities. Then we've got the RTPI networks, again, a coming together of people with shared interests, who share the knowledge and their experience to help take things forward. We've got the apprentices, the apprenticeships, and this is just a snapshot of the Trailblazer group who came together to put together this apprenticeship program that actually has now got 180 young people on apprenticeships studying at our top universities to become RTPI chartered planners. And then there's the role of promoting planning. We've got the future ambassador, the RTPI future planners and the volunteer ambassadors that go out to the schools and other people that go out and talk to the community about what planning is actually about. And then we've got those who actually assess the professional competence of people who are applying to become chartered planners. We've got international opportunities. And you can see in the bottom slide there, there's a UAE planners network out in Saudi, in the UAE, which is a new grouping that's come together. So these networks aren't just in the UK, they're actually international. Then there's the opportunity to judge awards, and what an amazing set of submissions and nominations that we've had for the awards each year. Absolutely incredible, showcasing the very, very best of planning. And I've been privileged to be a judge on some of those, and it really is an incredible experience. And then there's planning aid. That's our outreach to those communities, those who can't afford to access planning services, and also to help inform proper community engagement, again, entirely done by RTPI volunteers. And then, of course, you can always volunteer to be a member of the RTPI presidential team, something I would thoroughly recommend if you're considering doing anything like that. So how to get involved and find out more? Well, speak to your regional coordinator or national director, fellow volunteers, for an informal chat. I'm sure they will all give you a really honest view on what it's all about and the excitement of it, of being part of something that's really quite special. And if you want to stand for any of the roles on the regional management committees, the regional activity committees, General Assembly, the trustees, then the elections are open at the moment in the sense of nominations. Nominations are due to be submitted by the 27th of July. After that, we then go into elections. So if you are thinking about it, best of luck and get your nominations in as quick as you can. So moving on now, what we'll be doing is bringing together 3 of our volunteers to share their personal experiences in a bit of a conversation that we've got. And hopefully it'll give you that insight into what making volunteering for the RTPI is all about and why it's so special and well worth doing. Just get off the slideshow now and hand over to, well, I'm going to take the chair, so make sure everybody can come in on that conversation. So if I can actually kick off with the very first question, and if I can throw it to, I'm going to start with Kim, if I may. Throw it to Kim. Why did you start volunteering for the RTPI? So what encouraged you to get involved?
Yeah, it was, gosh, 10 years ago now. But I had graduated from my planning degree around the time of the financial crash, or the tail end of it. So there weren't really any jobs in planning. And it was really important to me that I stayed in touch with planning and had contacts and connections within planning world. So I started volunteering for young planners as a way of sort of maintaining that link with the planning profession.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Chris next. What was it that made you start?
So thank you, Sue. So yeah, similarly, 10 years ago, I was still a student. I was doing my master's, and I used to attend a number of events held by RTPI Yorkshire at the time. I'm a Sheffield alumni, and that then branched out upon graduation to attending the East Midlands RTPI and Young Planners events in the East Midlands. That's where I moved to the East Midlands for employment. And then from there, from 2013, I started to volunteer within the Young Planners Committee and have not looked back since.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ryan, what was it that got you going as an RTPI volunteer?
Thanks, Sue. Something quite similar. So for myself, I graduated in 2016-17 and just initially attending some CPD events and some social events as well too. getting to speak to a few other planners who then encouraged me to become more formally involved within the RTPI and taking on some voluntary roles.
There's a real theme coming through from that, isn't it? And that's not just the 10 years in planning theme, because Ryan, you bucked the trend on that one, but real positiveness. So then the next question that flows from that, and Ryan, seeing as you're there, if I can ask you the first one, is what's it given you professionally and personally as a result of the volunteering?
Yeah, well, I've carried out quite a few different roles within the RTPI, both on the Northern Ireland Executive Branch Committee, then as Young Planner Chair, also on General Assembly, and now the Vice Chair of the Young Planner Network. So it's definitely opened a lot of opportunities for me professionally. I have changed jobs, and part of that has been attributed to it, the raising of your profile. More personally, to be totally honest, I'm not someone who overly enjoys public speaking, but being within those roles has definitely encouraged me to go further. And the RTPI in general as an organisation, both in terms of the CPD events that they have put on, but also just the friends that I've made through volunteering, have also encouraged me that and give you that encouragement just to go forward, keep pushing yourself and push outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, I can certainly empathise with a lot of what you say. And I mean, obviously, I'm many years older than you are, but I've had lifelong friends who I met from when I started getting involved in RTPI activities. And I'm sure they'll be lifelong friends once I've finished RTPI. It really is that community feel, isn't it? So, so if I can turn to Chris on this one. Chris, what has it given you personally and professionally?
Volunteering with the RTPI in a number of capacities, which has gone from dabbling with a number of young planners events and attending them, to being on the committee as an events organiser, to then chairing the Young Planners Network in the East Midlands, hosting a Young Planners Conference in 2018, and then becoming vice chair and now chair of a region, has led, as Ryan has already said, to a number of links being made professionally, personally, with a great team building. I now chair a team of 16 people, the large majority of which have worked with me in a previous capacity, and that's been on the back of the previous successes regionally that we've been able to undertake in raising the profile of the region, encouraging membership numbers and getting more people involved. And I've got a great sense of leadership skill as a result of that. It's a fine art to undertake, but to be able to take people under your wing and nurture them as well. It's not just about this being the chair's show, it's the whole team together in delivering the shared goal, both for the RTPI and to demonstrate the value of planning as a whole, and obviously trying to embrace the benefits of why good planning is so significant, no matter what circumstances we're working in. And separately, I think that it's benefited me substantially in getting an understanding of governance and business planning and marketing as well, profiling of a group, and I've really learned a great deal from that.
You can hear the passion and the enthusiasm that comes from your voice, and I know I share a lot of what you're saying when I look back on for myself, and it's that confidence that it gives you, confidence in your knowledge and just that ability to relate to people. So on that, Kim, it falls to you then for the final word on that. What's it given you personally and professionally?
I got my job from this, so I can wholeheartedly say I would not be in the position that I'm at now without it. I spoke at a careers event at the university about working in planning, and the person that I spoke with was a private sector planner at the time. I was public sector. They heard all about what I was saying I did in my job, and then they approached me afterwards and offered me a role, which is where I'm at now. So can absolutely say I wouldn't be where I am without it. I'd echo what everyone else has said, but I think something I found really important is that I've genuinely been able to help shape the profession. So I've had a couple of key roles. I was part of the group that reviewed the chartership what would you call it, the guidance for chartership. So I was on the review panel for that, genuinely shaping the standards that we're requiring planners to achieve. And I'm now also on Education and Lifelong Learning Committee, looking at the future pipeline of planners. So truly being able to shape my profession and the career, you know, that I'm going to hopefully have for the next 30 odd years has been really, really important to me.
And I think it's amazing listening to the three of you, just sort of where you've got to already in your careers and how it's actually fitted together with volunteering. It's a real credit. So the penultimate question I've got for you. So this time I'm going to start with Chris and then work through, if that's all right. Chris, what would you say to somebody who was thinking about volunteering, and bearing in mind that we are now at the point of the nominations for people to stand for the various roles that you yourselves have occupied. So if somebody came up to you and was sort of asking for a bit of advice, what would you say to them? So Chris.
Actually, it fits rather well, because I've had a number of these conversations with people who've come to me recently, which is great news, just as a assurance on that. And I think what I've been saying is that no matter what level of contribution, do not fear as to how much experience that you have, both in planning or in a voluntary capacity. At some point, I started out with very little experience. If you've got a willingness to engage, a willingness to learn, a willingness to be an advocate, at the end of the day, I see this as an advocacy role on numerous fronts. And if you've got that ingrained in passion for something, then we will help you run with it, and we will help you nurture your skills at the end of the day. So we at the East Midlands RTPI, we do have roles on the management board and the activities committee, but we do try and tailor something to each individual skills on the group wherever we can. And you know, if you've got a certain amount of time to give to something, we will work around that. So it's a case of not being too daunted, that we are a very friendly bunch of people, and you know, we'll do that, and I'm sure that's the same in all of the other regions. That's what I would say, is not to feel that we're going to impose a set of values. It's actually to get the value of you as an individual on the committee and to help you achieve that.
Thank you. And I think I'd echo what you're already saying there, is that you're never too young, you're never too old.
No.
And everybody has different skills, and we are all different. We need a diverse mix in all of the roles of volunteering that we do, because we want to reflect the communities that we serve. So if I can now go to Kim, and then I'll come to Ryan for the last one on this one. Kim, what would you say to others who are thinking about volunteering?
Do it. Just do it. It's brilliant. It is good. I think it speaks volumes that a lot of us have done volunteering for the RTPI for a number of years. We've stuck at it. We've taken on different roles, and there is a reason that we haven't left, and that we're still doing it. You get an awful lot of value from it. Our profession will only be stronger for having more people involved in the views of more people. And I would say, if you've ever wondered where your membership money goes, just volunteer and you'll see the sort of wealth of work that is going on behind the scenes to help make our profession better. There's nothing really I regret. It's a time commitment. I guess that's probably the biggest thing. It's a time commitment, but it's one that I'm willing to make, and I enjoy it, and I get an awful lot back from it. So give it a go.
Yeah, and over to Ryan then for the final young planners view on this.
Yeah, well, kind of in the same vein as what Chris has touched upon, I would have quite a few young planners come to me and say, oh, there's so many different levels of governance, you know, I don't know where I would get involved or where my place would be within that. So just really in response to that, I would say that yes, there are so many different voluntary roles, different committees to get experience within. But you shouldn't see that almost as daunting. You should see that as an opportunity. I know it's quite cheesy to say, but there really is somewhere within the RTPI for everyone, and somewhere for you to hone your skills and get more skills along the way. So I would say, as Kim has said, do it, get involved. You know, you're going to be contributing to a really important movement that is genuinely making a positive difference in the world, both today and of tomorrow. And again, touching on what Kim said, you can really deliver that change that you want to see happen. So you do get so much out of it for what you're putting in. So just put yourself forward, contact anyone from your local branch. I guarantee everyone will be really happy to hear from you, and take my word for it. You would be amazed at what it can lead to, the opportunities, the strengths of what you could learn about yourself. And I think the moment you get in touch with someone from the RTPI, it's going to be the start of a positive journey.
You've certainly persuaded me, all three of you. It's wonderful. So the absolutely sort of last question is, and it's the one about the strategy, because I've got to bring it back to the strategy that we're launching today. So it's about the strategy, and it's why you think that it's important to have a strategy, what that strategy will actually add to those who are thinking about volunteering, in the way it sort of sets things out and what we can do to support. So if I can go, I haven't started with Kim, have I? So if I can throw it to Kim and then go Ryan and then let Chris have the last word.
I think the strategy is really important in showing that the RTPI genuinely values its volunteers. It cares about our progression, and it sets that really clear narrative in what the volunteer is contributing towards, and that bigger picture. So for me, it's very important. It's a good strategic document. It shows that we are valuing members and the time that people are giving for free, and that you truly can make that difference, and it sets out where you are making that difference. So I think it's a really important document. I'm glad we've got one.
Thank you. So Ryan.
Yeah, again, yeah, I think it is so important to have it in place, and I think that it helps set a clear and agreed direction of travel. It creates a strong framework for growth, which in turn then, I would believe, would empower the Institute and the wider profession. And it also ensures that members have an opportunity to develop their own skills whilst contributing to that growth of the Institute, and importantly then ensuring that members are supported carrying out those roles. So I think the role of that strategy is vital and shouldn't be underplayed. Thank
you. And last word to you, Chris.
I think it's really important to be such a strong element in feeding into the RTPI's recently adopted corporate strategy. You know, that is a long-standing document. The success of the corporate strategy depends in part on all the individual elements being successful, and this is one of them. It sets the basis for a number of things, both the RTPI and its wish for volunteering to be as representative as it can be, and I think that's a really important thing that the RTPI has worked very hard on already and will continue to do so. In order to do that, it needs to have a very clear set of values as to how you can get involved and what the aspirations are for who and why, and the background of people who can be involved. I think it's got to be better representative of society. Planning has to be, and we are the institute that is the platform, the speaking voice of that, and we need a good set of volunteers that can reach out to society in the appropriate way. And I think it's also really clear in the message to volunteers in knowing what they're going to get from this, both personally and professionally. Signing up to a code, it makes it more enticing actually at the end of the day that you're going to get an element of your work rewarded for that, I think, in the outcomes that you achieve personally and professionally.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Kim. You are truly the best of the volunteers. That it is in your DNA. As I said at the start, that's part of the RTPI, and with over 10% of our members volunteering, I think having the strategy there will really create that framework that will help us just grow and nurture the future volunteers. And what I always find interesting is how many people who join as volunteers actually stay as volunteers throughout their career. So thank you ever so much to all of you for joining us today and for actually talking about your personal experiences. And to everybody out there who's listening, I hope you will join as a volunteer if you're not already. I hope if you are a volunteer, you recognise everything that we've talked about in terms of volunteering. And if you want to read the strategy, which is part of the RTPI's 2020-2030 corporate strategy, then it's on our website. There'll be a link after this short webinar. And really look forward to meeting some of you at some of our volunteer events. So thank you very much to everybody.